Now, I want to talk to you just for a moment about freedom, as it struck me that there is a theme that runs throughout the big stories on today's show. And of course, that's hardly surprising, given that we are emerging from a time in which global governments reached into the minutiae of citizens' lives like never before. And now all of us, I think, have an obligation to consider what it means to be truly free. As one commentator said, freedom is like fresh air and clean water. You do not notice it until it is gone. And it wasn't something that I thought about at all. I was a home-owning, working mum of three. I had nothing to hide. So what did I have to fear? What did I have to worry about freedom? And then in spring 2020, the government told us that we must be so terrified of a virus that we must stay in our homes. And so told me not to see my family. I like my family a lot. So if someone tells me not to see them, they need to have a very good reason. And it was soon obvious to me that the reason wasn't sufficiently dangerous and the lockdown measures weren't sufficiently effective to make any of their diktats logical. I then watched as we entered a period of tyranny by 1,000 cuts under the auspices of a crisis. The political notions of left versus right were ripped up to be replaced by authoritarian versus libertarian. I would go so far as to say moral versus immoral. Was it right, for instance, to deprive a 103-year-old woman, a care home resident that I remember so clearly, from seeing her grandchildren? Of course it wasn't. It was cruel and nonsensical. But as the late filmmaker Albert Maysles said, tyranny is the deliberate removal of nuance. We had a parliament with a completely flaccid opposition, a cosy media happy to look the other way whilst governments greased their palms with £300 million of advertising budget, filling prime-time pockets whilst some commercial brands were literally unable to sell their wares, never mind advertise them. The Bill Gates and taxpayer-funded BBC became a government propaganda machine, allowing no dissenting voices. Doormat judges deferred to medical experts whilst turning a blind eye to perverse financial conflicts of interest. And the police force, our wonderful police force, seemed pressurised into becoming agents of the state rather than representatives of the public. In today's show, we're still going to be looking at the Public Order Bill, which will impose further restrictions on minority voices trying to be heard. Few of us admire public schoolboys gluing their faces to pavements, but are we in danger of surrendering our freedom to protest, another right that you never think you will need until one day you find that you do? And do you understand that the World Health Organization Treaty actually means handing over power from our government to global governance? We've already been discussing that, and hopefully you understand that in a little bit more detail, so that when the WHO rings the bell for the next pandemic and your democratically elected government potentially hands over all those powers, at least we will know where we are up to. And what about the online world? A place which became a refuge for many freedom advocates to find each other during the pandemic. Well, the pending online safety bill will gag anyone who dares counter the next wave of groupthink. If you're already feeling that your freedom of speech is being choked, you need to keep watching to grasp the magnitude of what is coming next.